Hello, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is going to be all about hair. Stop that again. Hello, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to my channel. My name is Miss T Lindo, if you don't know. I am a skin therapist and facial massage therapist from London. I'm also a student nurse and I take great interest in anything to do with skin, dermatology and aesthetics. So I really do hope that, you enjoy my channel and this video as well. So this video is going to be all about hair. So dermatologists, they don't just specialise in skin, they also specialise in nails and hair. So particularly within this video, I'm hoping that this can enlighten you more as to, what hair actually is, how it functions, and ways that you can support your hair as well if you may be struggling with any sort of difficulties with your hair, which is really common and something that, you shouldn't be ashamed of, as, it's really, really common. And also ways as well which you can prevent your hair from breaking and just to help it flourish and, you can keep and maintain healthy hair. So if you are interested in those things, then keep watching. So first I'm going to talk about what hair actually is. This isn't a question that's often asked, and I think by answering this question, this should help you to understand more about your hair and how it actually functions. So what is hair? Hair is literally a build-up of dead skin cells and protein. I know, right? So that exits your scalp, and then what we do see is a reflection of the preservation of how the hair was before being released, so that we could see it from the scalp, if that makes sense. So with that being said, there's basically not much that you can do to make your hair grow. So with, deep conditioning, that won't necessarily help your hair to grow because it's not scalp related. Once the hair has exited the scalp, that's basically it. So cutting your hair and trimming your hair won't necessarily help your hair to grow either. So with that being said, if your ends are stunting your growth, so if the ends of your hair are splitting, what happens is it will eventually work its way up to the root, and once it gets to the root, it will stunt the growth entirely. Other than that, cutting and trimming doesn't necessarily help your hair to grow. Anything scalp related is what's going to help your hair. So deep conditioning is not necessarily going to help. Cutting and trimming is not necessarily going to help your hair. Oiling your hair as well may not necessarily help because it's not scalp related. So do keep that in mind. If you are after healthy hair that you want to maintain, you need to focus on what's in the inside, so that the hair that's building up underneath your scalp can be in a healthy condition for when it is then exposed. You should make sure you're at least drinking a lot of water, because that helps the cells turn over within your body anyway and helps to flush out toxins and stuff, which could potentially be beneficial for the hair. It's also important to be aware of that once the hair does exit the scalp, the preservation that we're seeing, the longer that it's exposed to the elements, the more likely it is to then become damaged. This can be due to friction, your washing technique when you're washing your hair and stuff, but I'll go into that shortly, but that is something to consider. So if you are trying to have and maintain healthy hair, be very careful of how your hair is being exposed to the elements. Okay, so let's go into the anatomy of the hair. So what exactly is the hair, you're probably thinking? So hair is made up of a cuticle. The cuticle is made of a bunch of cells between 5 to 12, and they overlap. Similarly to some roofs, if you think of some roofs, particularly within the UK, they usually have tiles which sort of lay on top of each other like this. So think of that as your hair cuticle. So that will be how it looks. So if you think of these layers of dead skin cells and protein, which will be your hair, this is what will give your hair shaft strength and help to also protect the hair. So when your hair strand is healthy, the strand cuticle will lay flat like this. However, when it's in an unhealthy state, what happens is the layers, they sort of spike up on the ends. I'll insert a picture so you can understand it a bit better. But that's what happens when your hair is healthy and when it's unhealthy. So if you think about it, if the cells are sticking up like this and they're exposed to any sort of damage, that can help you to understand more how easy it is for your hair once it's in a brittle state to just damage and break off completely. So the aim is to keep the cells flat. There's many reasons why the hair strands can become damaged, and this can be due to an array of things. It can be due to free radicals within the environment, which is something that I guess is just a factor of life and that we have to deal with. It can be damaged by bleaching. When you're bleaching hair, you're using very strong chemical to lift your hair color and completely change the color pigment, so that can help to damage your hair. So there's also washing technique. What you often see, even in top hairdressers, when they're shampooing hair, they tend to, do you know what I mean, like they apply the shampoo to the hair and they like sort of, you know, keep boiling it up, sort of like. And what that actually does, with shampoo being quite drying anyway, it creates additional friction to the hair, which is already in a very weak and brittle state because it's wet. And when it's wet, what happens is the cuticle begins to lift up, and then you're applying friction to that same process. So all that does is basically help to dry your hair further and help to break your hair. Another reason why cuticles can become damaged is with heat, which, you know, a lot of people are aware of, especially like with black hair as well, which can be really dry. Heat is like the #1 enemy. If you are going to straighten your hair, do use a heat protectant. It helps to an extent, but you know, it is best to avoid heat entirely because, you know, the heat basically just dries the hair, breaks the hair, and it's not good for it at all, really. Sun damage can damage your hair as well. UV rays, not very good for the hair. So with all of that being said as well, there's also one myth that I need to basically bring into the mix. So I've heard a rumor that basically if you wash your hair with warm/hot water and then rinse the product out with cold water, it seals the product in, therefore your hair will grow. That is not true. So I'm here to debunk that entirely. Any type of temperature water is going to lift your cuticles, so just remember that. So it doesn't matter if you're rinsing with hot water or cold water, any water still has the potential to damage your hair, so do bear that in mind. So speaking of hair washing, washing works entirely different for everybody, as well as the products that you may use. Similarly to skincare, what may work for you may not work for the next person. It doesn't matter how much times you wash your hair within a week as well. So washing too much or too little won't necessarily break your hair per se. So your scalp naturally produces oils, and this is due to genes and it's due to hormones. So there's no particular hard and fast rule as to how many times you should wash a week. If you need to wash twice a week because your hair gets really oily, that's fine. If you need to wash once a week because, you know, maybe your hair just doesn't get that much oily, that's completely fine. It's all dependent on you and your hair type. The only things that you should look out for is excessive styling and again using heat, as that will, you know, break the hair strand. Okay, so like your skin, your hair of course goes through a cycle of growth, renewal and dying. So hair cycle renewal is different per person and it can vary between 2 to 6 years depending on your genes, hormones and many other factors. So your hair goes through an anagen phase, which is basically the cycle of the hair growing. This affects between 85 to 95% of your hair strands. Your hair will also go through a rest phase. This can happen for up to a period of 8 months, and this can impact 10 to 15% of your hair strands. Finally, we have the shedding phase / exogen phase. This can happen for a period of 2 to 3 weeks, and this will have impact on up to 1% of your hair follicles / strands. Okay, so these are the reasons why sometimes your hair, you may find your hair falling out. You might find your hair coming out in clumps sometimes, and that's due to just the cycle renewal. So you just have to be patient with your hair, and also try to understand your personal renewal cycle as well, because as previously said, it can be between 2 to 6 years. So the period of someone else's hair looking thick and flourishing and healthy, and you're wondering, you know, why isn't this happening to me? It could just possibly mean that you've got a shorter renewal phase. So try to understand that, and also try to be patient with yourself regarding that. There's also other factors that can have impact on the renewal cycle of your hair. A big factor is stress. If you find that you're being really, you know, stressed out or hard on yourself, dealing with a lot of troubles, this can increase the rest phase of the hair, meaning that you will therefore experience more shedding. It's also important to consider genetics. Genetics can have impact on attaining conditions such as alopecia, and there's also particular medications as well which can thin the hair and, you know, break the hair and not have it in, you know, the best state. So that's something to consider also. Finally, I'm going to talk all about dandruff. So what dandruff actually is a build-up of yeast on the scalp. To help improve this, you want to reduce oils and you want to reduce yeast in general, like consuming it. So that's things like bread. So to help treat dandruff, we want to focus on anti-dandruff and antifungal shampoos. The best ones, personally, I would say go to a doctor and get a medical grade prescribed shampoo that will work better for you, your condition, and the extent of your condition. If you are going to buy a mainstream brand or pop into your local drugstore to get a shampoo to support you, you want to make sure, as well as medical grade shampoos, that you're applying this onto the scalp and you're letting it sit for a while. So it's not as simple as, you know, quickly applying the product and then just rinsing it off. Like if you're in a rush, you want to put it on, leave it on for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, let the shampoo do its job, let it work on the scalp, and then you want to rinse it off, and that will help you to manage the condition. Like I said, again, it is best to see a doctor. I feel like doctors are the best people to go to when you're dealing with such conditions, just because they're more trained in the area. With such conditions, personally, any issues to do with skin, nails and hair, I think it's best to just see a doctor, a medical professional who has, you know, studied this for years, and they can actually see you physically and then decide on the best product for you. But, you know, if it's maybe due to affordability, or you want to try something in your local shop first, then do remember that you just need to be patient with your journey, patient with your process, and eventually it can be managed and or maybe treated entirely. So it's not be all end all if you are suffering from dandruff, which can be embarrassing for some people. Okay, so that's it. I'm all done. I hope you really enjoyed this video. It's taken a lot of research and stuff to, you know, do this video and get it out. So yeah, I really hope you liked it. If you did like it, then please give me a thumbs up. That would be really nice. And yeah, have a really good day, and I hope to see you soon in my next video.